Hello everybody, my name's Paul Born. Many of you may know me by now from our presence online. I'm coming to you from St. Anne's Church, St. Mary the Assumption Parish in Hull, in front of the statue of the Mother of Mary, St. Anne, as well as the Blessed Mother. I want to share with you a little bit today about my vocation story. So I have been going to church with my mother from a young age. She always brought my sister and I to Sunday Mass, and I can remember as early as maybe second or third grade really noticing what was going on in the Mass. I knew, as many of us do from broken relationships in our families, that if we don't take love very, very seriously and we don't selflessly love, people get hurt. So I was very intrigued in the Mass to hear about a God who loved us and who had a plan. Because I was a little unhappy in school growing up. You know, my friends would get moved around, they went to private school, different schools in town, and I found myself around middle school just really not being happy on a natural level, but because I always went to Mass, I knew that God somehow had a plan and was going to somehow make me happy or bring me to a good life. And I knew that I had to do this by following Jesus. But as I entered high school, I had questions like any teenager did, and I wasn't sure about being Catholic. I thought, well, maybe I could follow Jesus without the Catholic Church, and I just didn't know where we were going. But then this big thing happened. A youth group got started in my parish that really just developed a lot of attention in the town, and I got involved with it. And I did two things with them. First of all, I went on a pilgrimage to Rome, and in Rome I saw that the church is built on the grave of St. Peter, that Christ chose the apostles to found his church, and that is the Catholic Church. And Catholics have been offering Mass since the first century. And so all of a sudden, I saw that my parish in Stoneham, where I grew up, Stoneham, Massachusetts, St. Patrick's Parish, was connected to the whole world into a big church that went back to Jesus himself. The next thing that I did was go on a mission trip with that same youth group in Stoneham to Peru, and I saw extreme poverty for the first time in my life. And it totally changed my perspective on material things. It didn't make me cynical about my home in the United States, but what it made me realize is that those people in Peru, while it wasn't good that they were very poor, what was good is that they were happy. And they were just as happy as the people who I knew back at home. And that really struck me. I noticed that the kids didn't complain or cry, even though they had very little and no electronics and were hungry. That they had the Lord and they had their families. And so when I returned home, I was never the same. I finished high school like this, knowing that I wanted to be a Catholic, that I wanted to take Jesus seriously, that I wanted to do service, but it wasn't just about doing things, it was about having Jesus himself. So I went off to college, and I was already thinking about the priesthood, because when I was in Peru, there was a priest there and a religious community in the town we were helping in that took me aside and told me, you might have a vocation to be a priest. And I wasn't happy about that, because I thought my freedom was being taken away from me to choose. So I went off to college. I was a little angry about that, but I recognized it might be true. So I got involved with a group. I went to Boston College. I studied finance, and I got involved with a men's group there called the Sons of St. Patrick. And these guys had really taken their faith seriously in high school, had often come from Catholic schools, and had studied a lot. And they knew all these things about the church that I didn't know. So I learned from them, and I had some good Jesuit spiritual advisors who helped me to put words to what had been happening in my life since I was a little kid. That I could all of a sudden talk about my story more. And many of the things I say now stem from how I prayed and how I grew in my understanding of my experience with the Lord when I was in college. And they weren't all just moving forward. I mean, there was ups and downs. You know, college presents all kinds of challenges, and I experienced those. But by the time I graduated from college, I knew that I needed a community. I needed to stay close to the church, and I couldn't just follow Jesus on my own. I also knew that I was weak, and that I wasn't, I was humbled a little bit. So I left college knowing that whatever I did in the future, I needed to be very, very intentional about the faith. And a job dropped right in my lap. I was thinking about the seminary, but I had accumulated all this student debt, and quite frankly, I needed to go to work. And it seemed like God had given me this job. The only problem was, it was in New York City, and I wasn't expecting to do that. But it was the best opportunity that I had, and I thought maybe this will be a blessing. I'll get a little bit away from home, it'll give me a chance to restart again. But now I got to restart in college, I'll get to restart again, being in a better place now that I'm graduating college. So I went to New York, and I stayed there for 4 years. During that time, I got very involved with young adult Catholic world in New York, which was great, very, very strong. And I eventually started going to Mass on a daily basis. I would go to Mass and I started praying the Rosary. And it took a couple years for me to start to do these things. It was all through staying close to strong communities, people who prayed, were older than I, had been struggling to live their faith in a big city, and showed me how to do it, what it would take. And as I started to entrust myself more to God in the sacraments, to Our Lady and praying her rosary, all of a sudden I wasn't just looking at myself in the mirror saying, God, tell me what to do, but I was moving. I was taking steps forward, and I was praying. I was praying so I could hear the voice of God better, and I could taste better what was good for me and what was bad for me. It was in New York that I saw that marriage was open to me. I saw that more in New York than I ever did before because of all of the great young women I was around in these young adult communities, but I could just see it wasn't for me. God had led me every step of the way and opened the doors to go forward, whether it was in my parish growing up, in college, taking that job in New York and showing me who to become friends with and how to grow. It seemed like God was leading me the whole way, but he wasn't leading me closer to marriage. Instead, that same call that I heard in high school, that the priesthood might be open to you, started to become more and more attractive, and I lost fear. The Apostle John writes that perfect love drives out all fear. And while I don't have perfect love, as I began to love the Lord more, I feared less. So that when I actually reached out to the vocation directors in Boston, my home again, and said, I think I might want to think about seminary, I had peace about this for the first time. And as I went through the process to apply and started talking openly to my friends that I was thinking about seminary, it just seemed totally natural. So I just trusted and took those next steps. And as I found myself in seminary, it's been 3 years now, it's just confirmed all the more that I was chosen by the Lord from an early age, that I was set aside for this mission, for this vocation, that I was chosen, and there was really nothing else I could do with my life than devote myself fully to him. That's really the experience that I had all the way back when I was, a first, second, third grader, and I would listen to the prayers of the Mass, that the Lord had chosen me, and now it seems more like a privilege than a burden. And I encourage all of you to just trust the Lord, take the next steps that he's offering you, and you won't regret it. I promise you that. So God bless you. Hopefully we'll see you at Mass. When you're ready, we are ready.